Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, welcome back to my tutorial. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to be talking about the third instant hijab as shown in the picture. So for this hijab, we are going to be using 1.5 yards of fabric. I've decided to scale my measurements by 2. So now for the whole length of 1.5 yards, we're going to have 54 inches. We're going to have 54 inches. So if I divide the 54 inches by 2, it's going to give me 27 inches. So that is what I have here. And for that means that for my front hijab, that is for the front length of my hijab, I'm going to be dividing 54 inches by 2. You understand? I don't want you to be confused. It is just the normal scaling that I have been using. So it means that if I take my 1.5 yards of fabric, if I fold it into 2, I'm going to have 27 inches. It means that the front length of my hijab is 27 inches. And if I add 7 inches to that 27 inches, I'm going to have 34 inches. 27 inches plus 7 is going to give me 34 inches. So that 34 inches is going to be my back length. So my scale now, for my front, that is for my 1.5 yard, I will have 27 inches. And for my back length, if I scale it by 2, if I divide it by 2, I'm going to have 17 inches at the back. So I hope you understand. So now, taking my 1.5 yard of fabric, I'm just going to fold it into 2 like this. I'm just going to fold it into 2 like this. And then, I'm supposed to have 27 inches. I'm folding 1.5 yard into 2. But according to my scale, I'm not going to have 13.5 inches, which is 27 inches multiplied by 2. And then at the back here, I will have 17 inches according to scale. But for an actual fabric, you are supposed to have 34 inches. So here is my 17 inches. Let me mark it down so that it will be easy for us to shape our hijab. Be easy for us to shape our hijab. So here it is. So let me explain the amount of fabric once again. We need 1.5 yard of fabric for this. If we now fold 1.5 yard of fabric, we fold it by 2. We will be left with 27 inches here. That is if you are using actual fabric to sew. Then at the back, if we add 7 inches to that 27 inches, we are going to have 34 inches at the back, 27 inches at the front. But according to my scale, if I divide all my measurements by 2, it means if I fold my 1.5 yards by 2, here I have 13.5 inches, which is 27 inches divided by 2, and at the back here I have 17 inches. What is left for me now is just to shape my hijab. So now it's actually very easy to do. You just take your chalk and shape it as you would a normal traditional hijab, like so. You now try and locate the middle point, as in the midpoint. You try and locate it with a diagonal line like this. So here is where you are going to now try to shape your hijab to give you the shape that you need. You're just going to, let's say we'll mark a point upwards here. You don't want it to be too deep, and also you don't want it to be too you don't want the deepness to be too much or too little. So here, I have marked 3 inches upwards. So for an actual hijab, you are going to be marking like 6 inches. So now I'm just going to connect it like this. I'm going to make a curve. You see, it's actually curving. So if you feel that the deepness is not deep enough, you are simply going to increase the depth like this, which I believe is okay. Now if we measure our final depth, we already have like 4 inches. So it means that if you take in 8 inches at the side, it will not be too much. So now you can either leave it as it is, or you can reduce the wideness a little bit. If you want to reduce the wideness, you simply mark out your neck opening, which is like 11 inches. So for 11 inches scale divided by 2, I'm going to have 5.5 here. So from here, you will just measure like 4 inches inwards. So if I scale that to, I'm going to measure 2 inches inwards like this, and then I will now connect the dot of that 2 inches to the neck area here. So you have 2 choices. It's either you cut it like this, or you remove you reduce the wideness and then cut it out. So what is left for you to do now is just to cut your cap, sew it onto your hijab, and then hem it, or use an overlocking machine to finish it up. So you see, this is it for the third instant hijab. Now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.